All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And good evening, one and all, and welcome back to the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 2 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we will cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and our AM radio station that covers the province of Ontario and the northern tier of the United States of America, and that is Classic 1220, CFAJ AM, also right here in St. Catharines, just down the street from our studios. And they stream worldwide at www.classic1220.ca. For all the programming that we have available for you with our total compliments, you don't have to pay anything to listen to any of the XZBN programming. Just go to www.xzbn.net. XO Nation, my first guest tonight is Ellen KOHN, and we're going to be talking to Ellen about spirituality, animal communication, energy healing, psychic training, and experiences. And Ellen has been communicating with animals since childhood. She can hear their messages and intuit their feelings. She uses clair skills such as clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience to help interpret their transmissions. In her psychic and mediumship practices, these identical skills are employed to connect with individuals in the physical and non-physical realms. And joining me now from Santa Fe, New Mexico, is Ellen KOHN. And Ellen, welcome to the X Zone.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
How did you get started in this? What, how old were you when you understood that you had this, or these, I should say, special gifts?
I would say I was further along in my physical life, maybe in my 40s. Mm-hmm. I was doing hands-on healing on a client's horse, and my client said, ask Toby how he hurt himself. And in my head, I said, Toby, how did you hurt yourself? And I hurt myself in turnout. And I told my client, Kim, this is what I heard. Mm-hmm. We looked at each other. We had been in a clinic together the weekend before, and he had spun, and she thought he ripped a muscle when he was acting up in the clinic. So the fact that I heard something mm-hmm. completely different, I said, that has to be real because I didn't make that up. And it didn't happen in the clinic. So that kind of set me on, wait a minute here. I heard something, I need to explore this. And then I began studying with different animal communicator teachers. Mm-hmm. And then in 2007, I put myself out there and started doing readings for free. So, it didn't really happen as a kid. It was probably happening, but I didn't have the conscious spiritual awareness to understand that the bird that landed on my shoulder, a pigeon, when I was a little kid that went all the way home with me on my shoulder wanted to be in my house. Stuff like that, I didn't know.
So the first time you actually started communicating was when you had this experience with the horse.
Correct.
Because
Correct.
then whoever sent us the information that we received said in your bio, I have been communicating with animals since childhood.
I had, but it was all kind of in hindsight.
Oh, I see.
So it
Gotcha.
wasn't a conscious awareness of what was going on till I was an adult.
What's it feel like to know that you can actually, well, I guess you're like Dr. Doolittle, you can talk to the animals.
It's it's mind-blowing, and the more I do it, the more I get the chills, which is divine affirmation. Happened the other day, happened a couple weeks ago, talking to a dog that had died, and the things he said right up front, I can't talk. I'm like, how does this work? And also when I track lost animals and they're where they're sending me pictures, and then I tell the owner and they go look and they find their animal. It's like I'm in a body, but something way bigger than me is coming through me. So it's created a lot of faith.
How does this work as, let me see, do you also use your mediumship and your psychic gifts when you talk to the animals, communicate to the animals?
I do. I do. I do. I communicate with them when they're in spirit,
Right.
and I communicate them when they're here, and the messages I hear, and sometimes it's just a feeling or an energy. You know, when you meet a new animal and you pick up what they're feeling, you're not hearing words, but you're knowing exactly their emotion. Fear, trust, curiosity, looking at you like, wait a minute, you're different. I've been told that by the animals. I never really met anybody like you. And I'm like, all right, well, that's okay.
So how do you tune into the animals?
I have different techniques. If it's a client reading, I'll be where I'm sitting right now, which I call my sacred space. I have a lot of crystals out here. I have singing bowls. I do Reiki. I Reiki the room. I get the room ready. I ground it. And I'll be holding usually smoky quartz, a Herkimer diamond, a rose quartz. And I can feel the vibration in the quartz. And then I know I'm tuning in. Sometimes I open a picture. I always ask for a picture and I look in their eyes and boom, the messages has come flooding in, and that's when I hear things.
So what is the strangest, and I don't mean to be sarcastic when I ask this, what is the strangest thing that an animal has communicated with you?
Boy, that's a good one. Oh, wow. There have been so many. I wouldn't use the word strange, but I would say one of the remote lost dog cases I was doing many, many years ago. They sent me the picture. The dog told me she was in a churchyard up in Vail, Colorado. I told the people, go to this church. You have a church there. We do. I go to the graveyard. She's there. No, she's not. We've been there already. I said, well, please go back because she's saying she's there right now. And they went back, and then I forgot about it for about a half an hour. One of my kids was here. I was helping him rehab a knee, and he got up on the table, and we were, pushing the scar tissue. And I picked up my phone a half an hour later, and they go, we've got her. I was like, what? What? That was like one communication. It wasn't a week long of tracking different places the dog had been. And boom, it was one of those lightning strikes. So that was a huge affirmation because they're like, no, we were there.
Right.
She's not there. I'm like, please go back. I've been doing this long enough that when I hear something, I have to trust it.
How different is your approach when it comes to people?
Not at all
No,
anymore. Nope, because I could be doing a psychic reading for someone and a grandmother will come in and I'll say, there's somebody here. And I might hear a letter, like an S, or I might get a picture, like I see somebody that looks like a great aunt or a grandmother with curly hair, and she's wearing an apron. Did your grandmother like to cook? And then if it's an evidential, they'll say yes or no, and you'll know if you have the right person.
What's the difference between an evidential medium and just a medium?
Well, the really, really famous mediums work with the evidential because they want the sitter to know that it's real. In other words, your grandmother wore a rose quartz ring on her right pinky.
Oh, so it's something that is very specific
Yes.
that the person that you're reading for actually knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that that's my
Right.
grandma. Yeah,
That you
fascinating.
cannot make it up. You cannot make it up. It's just clear as crystal that this information came in from somewhere beyond the physical, and the person who's receiving the reading knows that you're the conduit and that you have reached their departed loved one, animal, whatever. Here's another example.
Okay.
A client of mine referred somebody to me whose little dog died suddenly.
Oh no.
The woman called me and said, I had it planned. I was going to help him transition, da, da, da. And I looked at his picture and I heard him say, there was an angel here and someone came in. And then I heard the word grandfather. So I said to this woman, did you know your grandparents? Yes, I did. Did you have a grandfather? I had one grandfather. I said, well, tell me about. She said, my grandfather was my world. He was my everything. And I said, well, your grandfather was there to greet your dog. I said, I've never met you. We're doing this on the phone. And I didn't know if you had any grandparents. And I surely didn't know he was your world. So she got really quiet and she said, well, I was raised Jehovah Witness and we were taught when an animal dies, that's it. And I said, no, that's not it. And now we know your grandfather was waiting for your dog. So you can't make that up, Rob.
No, you can't.
You just can't.
No. Do you find that the religious philosophies of the people that you do readings for play a big part in the outcome of the reading?
I would say most of the people that reach out to me don't have. Well, no, that's not true. I have one client I've been working with for 8 years, and he was raised Catholic.
Right.
And he believes in heaven and hell. And in the beginning, it was very foreign and very new to him. He had a racehorse that died, and the guy wanted to go be with his racehorse. And we've worked together for long enough and had enough of these evidential experiences that his Catholic upbringing doesn't really play into it anymore, but it did for a while. But that's a long-term client. And now we're kind of working on the quantum every time we have a session. It's gotten that cool.
Wow.
That it's out there. And he's trying to understand how that can be like, a parallel, like the whole quantum physics thing.
All right, stand by, Ellen. You and I have to take our first commercial break for this segment. At Exonation, our guest this hour is Ellen KOHN. And if you'd like to reach Ellen, I would imagine the best way, Ellen, is how's the best way to reach you?
Email.
All righty.
Like?
And your email is horsesrockforme at gmail.com.
Right.
That's horsesrock, the number 4, me, at gmail.com. Ellen KOHN and I will be back on the other side of the short break as the X-Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios of the X-Zone Broadcast Network in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Check us out. All the programming on our site is free at www.xzbn.net. I'll be back.
Elliot Van Dusen, the Corporate Director of Paranormal Phenomena Research and Investigation, PPRI, is proud to announce that our inaugural Halifax Paranormal Symposium was a spooktacular success. Thank you to all of our sponsors, vendors, and attendees. As a result of your support, we are pleased to announce the second annual Halifax Paranormal Symposium. Join us in October 2024 for an all-day event. Enjoy amazing presentations about parapsychology and the paranormal, browse our wonderful vendor tables, and enjoy the company of the spooky community. The Halifax Paranormal Symposium will be held on Saturday, October 12, 2024 at the Halifax Tower Hotel and Conference Centre from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. For information on speakers, vendors, purchasing tickets online, hotel accommodation reservations and more, visit www.ppri.net.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was a fly with a buzz and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can remember your name, because there ain't no one for to give you no pain. La, 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 la.
Welcome back, everyone. Ellen Cohn is our special guest this hour. Her email address for contacting her for a one-on-one private consultation is, are you ready for this? Horses rock the number 4 me at gmail.com. Ellen, how do the animals know that you're available and that you can actually communicate with them and relay messages to their owners?
What I do, Rob, when I sit down with a photo is I kind of introduce myself.
Mm-hmm.
I go, "Hey, Forrest, this is Ellen. I can hear you." And I also, very importantly, ask for permission. Are you willing to chat with me? Usually they're like bubbling over. Sometimes they're like, "Not today. Come back." That happens. And it's harder with my own, but yet I'm always available. I've always got the channels open.
Right.
And I've always got the channels open if I'm helping track a lost animal. I'll get messages when I'm not expecting it. But, they know, because I do tune into them, and I do literally introduce myself as, I'm one of those people that can hear you. And then they're like, "Okay, let's go." Because they vibrate at very high rates energetically. So when a human has that similar, or can raise my frequency to match theirs, we're kind of in that one zone, really. And you can feel it, if you're sitting with a picture, you can feel the energy come up, and you can feel the enthusiasm around, wow, we're going to get to the bottom of this problem. I mean, not everything works, just like in life. You
Sure.
have to have cooperation. You have to have free will on the part of an animal, like a person. They have to want to cooperate. They have to want to hear me. Like, your owner's not happy you're peeing on the bed or whatever. I got stuff in my house that they're not willing to, some of them aren't willing to change. But by and large, it's kind of like I'm a mediator in a way. And by and large, you can at least affect some change.
So if I understand it right, you not only deal with animals on the other side of the veil, but you also deal with issues that that fur baby owners are having with their kids on this side.
Absolutely.
Wow.
That's a lot of my energy work. I've got a little dog right now that these people rescued, and throughout the course of the first year with him, he's got everything going on: separation anxiety, fear, aggression towards dogs and people. And they're here in town, and I actually made this little dog a crystal flower
Aw.
essence using my pendulum. I have a box of about 100 essences. So I've asked permission. Then I take my pendulum and I touch the top, the little rubber top. What's he asking for? And I go through the whole box and I come up with maybe 10, put a blend together, get an affirmation like for protection and security. And I actually handed it off to her in town, but I'd also done an energy treatment on him the night before, and she goes, you know, we went to the dog park yesterday and he went up to a man, and I'm like, Hannah, we're going to take that as a big win. I'm going to be doing 8 more treatments on him, and I've already done 2. I'm going to do one tonight when we're done, and I would imagine he'll start to shift. It works pretty well, the energy and then the energetic blends that I make. I've got one going right now for one of my horses that I just made, and it's for peace. I call it for peace. So I've had tremendous success with the energy work and the communication, but there's so many parts to it. There are a lot of parts.
So basically, you're a spiritual mixologist as well.
Yep, yep, yep.
How
I am.
How did you discover your ability or your knack, gift, I don't really know what to call it, when it comes to making these blends that work with the fur babies? And I'm sure if it works on fur babies, you can also do blends that work on humans.
Yes. That one, I don't know, Rob. I wasn't taught by anyone. I just decided one day I'm going to take my pendulum and I'm going to see if I can put 5 or 10 together. You know, some crystals, some flowers, the Bach flowers I mix with the Alaskan essences. And then I was getting feedback and saying, you know, my dog had a huge transformation. So I just keep going. And, you know, and if I have a new client like this little poodle, I'll ask with my pendulum, would a remedy benefit him? And then if I get a yes, I ask permission. And then if I get permission, I make it. So, yeah, I'm kind of a chemist, a spiritual chemist. Yeah.
It seems that your energy work, your work with the other side of the veil, this side of the veil, both for animal babies and we call them fur babies here because, you know, my wife and I love little animals. In fact, I used to work with the SPCA as in the media, and some of the stories and some of the things that I saw there that the inspectors and investigators have to see on a day-by-day basis, it just breaks your heart.
Yeah.
It just breaks your heart. You know, I forget where I was going with that. So your energy work, your psychic work, your mediumship work, all combined makes you, and now let's throw in the mixology as well, makes you a very unique person. Because I've been doing the show for 36 years and I've never had anyone with everything that you do all in one package, so to speak. How does that make you feel?
I guess mostly I'm kind of a fly below the radar kind of gal, but truthfully, I know that's why I'm here on Earth. I know that's my mission. I know I'm supposed to help people. At times, my husband will say, oh, you know, tracking lost animals is so emotional. I said, but not many people do it.
Right.
So it's not always going to work, Rob. You don't always find them. It's because it's not up to me. I'm not some walking, you know, guru that says, go home, Casey. No, if the cats run away for a reason, they don't want to go home, they're not going to go home. You can talk to them as much as you want and say, your owners are crying, the little girl is crying. They're like, no, I'm not going back there. There's a big dog that lives next door and chases me all the time. I'm happier where I am.
I guess.
It happens. It happens.
Has it ever happened where an owner of a pet that has gone to the other side of the veil or across the Rainbow Bridge just wants nothing more to do with the owner and will say, I'm not talking to them.
I've never had that happen because the people that contact me are those fur baby owners that want closure, want information, and they've been that kind of, you know, they're so attached and they're so deep in grief that they really want to understand what happened here. Like the client with the racehorse, you know, the horse lived to a pretty old age. And my client knew that his horse had kidney disease. And he actually kept him alive with his vet for 3 or 4 years past, like when he might have gone down.
Right.
But that wasn't good enough. He kept telling me in the beginning, he was supposed to live another year. He wasn't supposed to go this soon. I kept saying, well, it really wasn't up to you.
That's
I'm
right.
sorry.
Yeah.
But it was his contract. And he eventually came around to understanding that he kept him alive. And this man was not spiritual. But when he met that horse the first time, he looked in his eyes and he said, "Oh my gosh, something about that horse I know." Well, they'd been together in past lives. So there was familiarity
Sure.
that he didn't understand at the time. And it's happened to me with animals where, one dies suddenly and
Yeah.
I got to get him back right away. And I go looking and I find him and I'm on my third round with one of my cats.
My
He's
goodness.
the third incarnation of the one that came from a prayer. It's a great story.
How long does it
It's a
take?
great.
How long does it take for an animal that leaves this side of the veil, goes to the other side, to be reincarnated and come back?
It varies. It's not always, well, go look for me next week.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if they've been really sick, they're
Yeah.
like, not yet. Give me 6 months. And I always tell the people, the humans, you will feel a magnetism when the time is right. You're
Yeah.
going to get that yearning to go look, or you're going to see a dog somewhere that reminds you of your dog, and you go, okay, it's time.
Yeah.
But it's extremely individual.
I don't think that anyone who is not a parent of a fur baby can understand the grief that you and I are talking about. In the last year and a half, my wife and I lost 3 of our fur babies. The one was 18, the other one was 16, and the other one was 10. We brought her to the vet for a normal checkup, and the vet said she's filled with cancer.
Oh,
And we had noticed in the last couple of days, like, her tail would never stop wagging. It had stopped. And she just was, and the vet said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I don't want her to be in pain. I
Right.
want her to just stop suffering." And as hard as that decision was, my wife and I knew that we made the right decision in all cases. So I understand and I appreciate what you do when you help people get that closure that they so rightfully deserve. Ellen, stand by. You and I have to take our break. We'll be right back in Exo Nation. If you'd like to contact Ellen KOHN, her email address is horsesrock4me@gmail.com. And of course, we'll be putting this all over our sites. The X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, and my special guest, Ellen KOHN, will continue on the other side of this break. So whatever you don't go away, more to come.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was a fly with a buzz and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound.
You're not a dream, you're not an angel, you're a man. I'm not a queen, I'm a woman, take my hand. Make a space in the lives that we planned. And here we'll stay until it's time for you to go. Yes, we're different, worlds apart. We're not the same. We laughed and played at the start, like in a game. You could have stayed outside my heart, but in you came. And here you'll stay until it's time for you to go. Don't ask why.
Welcome back, everyone. That was Buffy St. Marie, Until It's Time for You to Go. And my guest this hour is Ellen KOHN, and we're in this part of the show where we're talking about animal communication. She does animal communications. She is a psychic. She is an evidential medium. She does spiritual work, energy healing, and much more. Thanks very much for joining us, Ellen. Great having you with us. And from all the fur baby owners out there and the people who love their pets, who they've adopted and brought into their families, thank you for all the great work you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
And congratulations. I understand you have a book coming out on October the 29th called Be Like the Wind.
I do.
Tell us
I
about
do.
it.
Well, it's a channeled book. I would say the horses wrote it, starting with a horse named Monty. And he has his own unique story of how we met. I believe he chose me. And two more came in. One that was gone already, Billy. And when you say you've been talking to them for a long time, that was looking back in hindsight what was going on with Billy long ago and how Billy could read my mind, and I didn't know it. I didn't know it,
Really,
but
eh?
he was in the book. And now Romeo, who's here with me, still alive, is a Mustang captured from the wild when he was 2 in California. One of those you don't want to think about the roundups and the destruction and separating families. It's one of the worst nightmares in our country on the animal level. And yet I got him at the prison in Canyon City, Colorado with another good story, believing he found me. And the three of them literally guided the divine essence of the book. So, as hard as I tried to write outlines and reorganize, it never happened. They wrote the book through me, and such a fun book, full of spiritual messages and some messages for people how to get our act together on this planet. So I think it's got some good stuff to share through the lens of the horses.
Something I've noticed with pet owners, especially horse owners, there's a very different bond between humans and horses than any other animal. Why is that, in your opinion?
Well, all animals are healers in their own ways, but horses have this extraordinary, I think it's partly vibration and partly survival. They seem to be ascended masters in some ways. And so when you're in the presence of a horse and you're not afraid, and people get scared, to stand next to a horse, is he going to step on me? Is he going to kick me? But when you're next to a horse, you're different than when you're with your dog or your cat. It does move your energy in a very, very unique way. I would agree with that.
Now, you're also into spirituality. How does that fit into what you do?
I would say, Rob, every day I find gratitude in my life, even if, and there have been some really, really big challenges for our family in the last couple of years. I have managed to stay in alignment with my spiritual beliefs and trust that everything has a reason for happening, and that there is a greater God or supreme being, source, whatever you want to call it, that does have a plan for each of us, and accept that there are things I can't change and I have to surrender. So that word has come into play in my life a lot in the last 4 or 5 years. Surrender, 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 and faith. So if that answers your question,
Yes.
that's a biggie.
Yes, it does. And you were talking about the animals are concerned with the state of the planet and what we're doing to it. How can we best turn things around as seen by the animals from their perspective, and as you said, through their lenses?
I think it starts on the micro level. I think it starts with keeping yourself clean, keeping your aura clean, having non-toxic thoughts towards self and others, being a good neighbor, keeping your property clean, doing good deeds, holding the door for someone, walking into a supermarket and saying to somebody, "How's your day going?" Whoever asks the cashiers that, and
I
and
do.
just I do too.
Yeah,
But I'm saying, like, occasionally they'll say, "Nobody ever asked me that." And but it's not like I'm trying to toot my horn. I'm not.
I
But
understand
I
that.
am conscious of, recycling and litter and just trying to walk the earth
Yep.
as in the purest form of light that I can, and laughing, because we can all cry.
That's
There's
right.
a lot of stuff going on out there that's not good, but the animals would like us to kind of be mindful of this gorgeous planet and take care. I'm staring at the most magnificent mountains right now, and it brings me to my knees every time, because this earth is so magnificent. It really is. And it's looking out at the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, thousands of acres over there that are untouched. And yet, in the cities, we know what's going on, the homeless and all that.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
It truly is. And you were talking about, saying hello to a cashier and making their day. What I do whenever I get the opportunity is I thank members of the military and law enforcement. Especially when we go to psychic fairs, we go to the different fairs that are around. It's this time of year here in Niagara, and there's fairs all over the place. And ultimately, there'll always be a booth or an area where the military is set up, and it's basically kind of recruiting. But when you walk up and you shake the hand of the people there and you say thank you for your service, it just blows them away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and people also within the different rescue organizations for animals, they do a great job, and they're 99.999% volunteers.
Oh, I know. I
And
know that one.
yeah, and they do such a great. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you volunteer your services a lot.
Well, I used to, and I do have a nonprofit that I started in the Bahamas, and all the proceeds for the book are going to be turned over to them, and I
Yeah.
don't pay myself a dime. I started it
Good for you.
23 years ago, and it's a high kill shelter in Freeport, Grand Bahama, and I run it, and I don't. So in that sense, I'm always doing a lot. And in the day when we lived near Denver, I organized puppy lifts. When the hurricanes, I organized clothes to go down on
Yeah.
Frontier Airlines, but
You're
now
you're just a nice person.
I try to be.
Well, it sounds like
Rob.
you're doing your
try.
share of work, if not more.
Well, I really, really try.
How do you think these two hurricanes are going to affect the animals in the hurricane zones? I understand that right now, as you and I speak, the Eye of Milton is over Florida, and they just got lambasted with one. This is their second hurricane within a month. How does this affect the animals?
Well, they could be separated if if the owners don't get out in time, and apparently there were gas shortages. You might not be able to drive out of your city. They can get left behind, and then they drown, or they get disoriented and they're not reunited. But thank goodness we have teams of lots of people on the ground with boats and things like that. But it's really hard on them. And I know, for example, Hurricane Dorian in 2019 that hit Grand Bahama, the worst hurricane ever. And I've seen Jean, Francis, Wilma, Ivan. Dorian was flooding. The tsunami type waves came up into the shelter, and there were about 6 staff members that had to climb up into the ceiling to save their lives. 200 dogs drowned because they couldn't get them out of the kennels in time. So, and I was also on Grand Bahama after Wilma in the West End, out way far west, like a 2-hour boat ride from Florida. And a friend of mine drove me to where her house was. And she looked at me and she said, "Thank God I'm alive." But she drove away with nothing. I think she saved one of their dogs, threw it in the car. But in the Bahamas, the dogs really don't live in the houses usually. Yeah. So, the dog, if they're smart, can climb up a tree, maybe. But if the waves are super high, so a lot of them perish. And then a lot of them don't get reunited because the humans maybe can't take them back. If they don't have a home and they're, it's not a good scene. And,
it's not.
Yeah. Horses, what they do with horses in hurricanes, in boarding barns down there, is they open the gates maybe they get a halter on them and they let the horses run because horses know what to do to get away. I've seen that in Miami. I forget which hurricane now, many, many years ago. They just turned them all out, and most of them got recuperated because the horses knew what to do. Like the elephants, in Asia that knew the tsunamis, and they went up in the hills. Animals know
Yeah.
what to do.
No, I know Freeport very well in the Bahamas. My parents used to have a place there, and that's where I used to go in the summertime. A lot of good
Oh,
times in Freeport, and the people there are so wonderful and friendly.
oh, they're
Yeah,
so wonderful.
they
So
are.
the Humane Society of Grand Bahama
Yes, I
has
do.
been around for a long time.
Once again,
Long time.
a lot of great people doing a lot of great work, and unfortunately, not with not enough resources. So my hat
Wow.
is off to you for once again, for your nonprofit and the work that you do to help animals. Listen, you and I have to take our final break, Ellen. So please stand by. Exonation Ellen Cohen is our guest, and if you'd like to contact Ellen, if you'd like to talk to her about a one-on-one reading, if you'd like her to, you know, sell you a book. However, if you'd like to help her with her any of the work that she does with her nonprofit, I think that would be a great idea. Go to send her an email, I should say, to horsesrock, the number 4, me at gmail.com. And you can also reach her on Facebook at facebook.com/ellen.kohn9. We'll be back on the other side of this break as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, as we finish off the first segment of this 2-hour show. And segment number 2 starts at the top of the next hour. Whatever you do, don't go away, because we still have a lot more to talk about with our guest this hour, Ellen Cohen. I love animals. And I
Aw.
really appreciate the people who do so much to take so much care of these little fur babies when for one reason or another their fur parents just can't. We'll talk more on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Lives that we planned, and here we'll stay until it's time for you to go. Yes, we're different. How do I get through one night without you? If I had to live without you, what kind of life would that be? Oh, now I need you in my arms, need you to hold. You're my world, my heart, my soul. If you ever leave, baby, you would take away everything good in my life. Without you, there'd be no sun.
Welcome back, everyone. That's Faith Hill. How do I love without you? I was listening to that song, and I used that song many years ago. It just came out, and it was an infomercial that I created for the SPCA, I believe. And as Faith Hill is singing, How Do I Live Without You, there were different pictures of animals, dogs, cats, that had kind of been neglected or abused. And that was one of the most touching videos I ever did. Ellen Cohen is our guest this hour, Exonation. Her websites are enlightenedanimals.com. There's another one, psychicjourneys.net. And for the foundation that Ellen has, it's the KOHNFoundation.org. And Cohen is spelled KOHN. So that's the KOHNFoundation.org. You know, for all the people who don't have the opportunity of speaking to you like I do, as well as all the animals that you've touched one way or another who haven't had the opportunity of saying thank you, I'm going to say thank you, Ellen, for them. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob. This is such a fun interview.
Oh, people are fun. And
Yeah.
even though there are topics that make people sad. My philosophy is when somebody is sad, it's opening up their heart, that they have the ability to change that sadness into gladness by doing something positive.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. I agree. I agree.
You're a very spiritual person. Tell me about your spirituality journey.
Well, I can share with all of you listening that I was not raised in any shape or form to have any belief system whatsoever. None. I went to Sunday school and I didn't really, there was no talk of God or a bigger power, nothing. And I took a class just for fun that was called Heal Yourself. And that was the beginning of my psychic training. And 7 years later, weekend intensive workshops, I can honestly say my eyes were open. I didn't have one of the, I've had many of those whoa experiences. I've shared a few of them on the show, but nothing like a little kid that, has this or that. I have a friend who was doing readings when he was 6 years old.
Wow.
No, that wasn't me. But now I can say I feel like I'm in spiritual kindergarten because almost everything in your life can be viewed from a spiritual perspective. The drive that you take that you avoided a car accident. It happened in that class, as a matter of fact. My friend and I were standing around talking, and we went to leave, and right in front of me, a truck had hit a huge elk. And I turned to my friend Lisa and I said, that could have been one of us. The guy was driving a truck, so he was unhurt. But we were spared. We both knew that because we had stood in the parking lot for 10 minutes, that neither one of us hit that elk and killed it. It would have been awful, awful. And we could have been hurt. We could have been killed if it had flied up onto the windshield. Those kinds of things I now view as thank you, Spirit. Thank you. When I find feathers, when I'm down or I'm having a hard day and there's a feather in a weird place, boom. The other day, one of those, I call them wind tunnels, and around here they call them kachinas, some sort of Native American spirit. It's not windy out, but you start seeing the dust swirling like a mini, mini, mini tornado,
Right.
and then it goes up in the air. I believe that spirit saying something like shake yourself out of your two in your head or something like that. It happens to me now all the time. But again, it's just because I became so curious about this can't be it. This cannot be it. So I would say, no matter how old you are, no matter what's going on in your life, there's always another way to live. That's called the spiritual path.
What do you think happens beyond this lifetime that you and I are both enjoying at this time?
Well, from what I think it's mostly my learning is when you go back to the spirit world, you are, of course, invisible. You don't have any form, but there's some sort of consciousness. You can still reach your loved ones who are here. But then I was taught you choose your next incarnation. You choose your parents, you choose your birth, you choose your life circumstances. But like when you're over there and we want to reach somebody, it's like, well, where are you? What are you doing? And I've been told, like, it's so beautiful over here, you won't believe it. It's just kind of like Eden and things like that. But you don't have a form of any kind, but you have some sort of voice.
Do you come back only as a human, or you come back could you come back as an animal?
My personal belief is you can come back as anything. I was told, I've had many teachers. Okay, I've been told that the living don't come into our readings. That has not. I've had living come into my readings. So I don't always believe my teachers because my experiences have been different.
Now, what do you mean?
Okay?
What do you mean by the living coming into your readings?
Let's say you're doing a practice with someone.
Okay.
This happened to me in one of my classes in Santa Fe. And I was reading a woman and I saw somebody and she goes, oh, that's my son, Joel. Well, her son was alive. And I also saw her husband, who was in the spirit world. And our teacher came in and he said, "Oh, no, 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 that's not possible. The
But
living don't come into these readings."
but it makes
But
sense that they
I don't,
can. It makes sense that they
yeah,
can because of quantum physics and what we're learning
right.
about energy. If energy surpasses the time of death, then why can't the energy that people are with right now or have in them right now communicate the same way the energy on the other side can? That makes perfect sense to me.
Me too. And my one of my favorite teachers, we laugh about this all the time. She says there are no rules. Who makes the
Mm,
rules?
I
Who made that
like
rule
that.
that the living don't come into these readings?
I like that a
Wasn't
lot.
me.
Well, yeah,
There are
proof
no rules.
proof of that would
Yeah,
be, if you're sitting by the phone and the phone rings and you know who's on the other
right.
end of the phone, that person
Yeah,
isn't dead. So I love that.
right.
I love that. And
Yeah.
who makes up the
Who
rules?
says?
Yeah, that's great.
It
So,
happened to me in another class. The teacher, I saw a little boy,
hmm,
and she came over. She was going around the room checking on us that were exchanging. And I said, "I just saw a little boy." And I described him, and she said, "That's my guide. That's not possible. You can't have seen my guide." And like, I didn't say anything because, she's the teacher. And I'm like,
yeah,
uh-oh, I'm in trouble. But I'm thinking later, well, how it happened. It's evidential. Come on.
yeah.
But I would never ever argue with anyone because it is what it is. And and I've seen it anyway. So I believe that we can come back as an animal. And another woman, she's no longer doing readings. She was from Chicago. I had a reading with her. I asked her this very same question. Tony Winnegar. I said, "Can people come back?" She looked at me and she said, "I was a woolly mammoth once." I'm like, okay, she believes what I believe, but not everybody does.
Hmm.
Some people say dogs come back as dogs, horses come back. Maybe I was a horse, and that's why
Yeah.
I'm so connected to them.
I think if
I
a
mean,
person doesn't open themselves to the possibilities of coming back as an animal or whatever, I think that's because they are so naive and they're so embellished in their own state of mind that they cannot possibly come back as a lower species. And I think that these people are wrong. And I believe that once you go to the other side, you can come back as anything. But that's just
that's
me.
what I
Yeah.
believe, Rob.
Listen,
I
we've
do
got
too, because we got to cut.
well, we have to say so long for tonight. But before we go,
Okay.
I've got a minute that I'd like you to share whatever you'd like to share with the X-Zone Nation. Whatever's in your heart, share it with them.
I would say no matter where you are in your life, no matter how much suffering you've had, try to find gratitude for what is the silver lining that you can wrap your arms around. Maybe you've only got a cat and you don't have anything else in the whole world and you're struggling with money, but you got your cat. Try to stay in that mindful moment that's very precious. And there is abundance out there. You may have to go find it. And it doesn't mean you're not going to struggle, because we all do.
Yeah.
We all have tragedy and loss and grief. But life is meant, we're here to learn. We're here to learn, and we're here to be open to what spirit can bring to us.
I want to thank you very much for that. And X-Zone Nation, before we go, I'd just like to remind you that before you decide to get yourself a fur baby or a pet of any kind, make sure that, number one, you understand the needs of this new addition to your family. Number two, make sure that you're able to have enough money to take care of the new addition to your family, whether it's food, whether it's training, whether it's veterinarian help. Make sure you can do this. And above all, when this little animal or this little baby comes into your family, they have feelings. So they're not a toy. They're a being. And they look to you as their fur parents to take care of them. And they will, something about animals, they give unconditional love. There's no if, ands, or if you buy me this, I'll do this. There isn't any. Cherish them because they are so special. And the people who take care of these little fur babies and who are good fur parents and who work in the humane societies and the rescue organizations throughout the world, thank you for doing the great things that you're doing. So with that, Ellen, I'm going to say so long for now. Look forward to having you back in the future. And Exo Nation, if you'd like to find a bit more about Ellen, visit her websites, enlightenedanimals.com, psychicjourneys.net, and the KOHNfoundation.org. I'll be back on the other side of this break as hour number 2 commences right now of the X-Zone Radio Show from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, and, of course, our favorite AM station, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM, streaming around the world on classic1220.ca. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
Thank you.